if somebody were able to predict today a scientific phenomenon that would not be proven or discovered for another 1,600 years, and then, lo and behold, 1,600 years from now, it was discovered to be true, that person would carry a lot of weight. And I would personally be amazed. The Prophet Muhammad did that, predicted the expansion of the universe, the greatest single finding in all of the history of science that even Einstein himself rejected at first. And
can you cite the verse where that prediction is made?
Right here, chapter 51, verse 47.
And I'm not completed. The belief in science has relative strength. It's not the strength that it's fluctuating. Look at the Quran. Why do we believe in the Quran? Look at what the Quran says in chapter 21, verse number 30. Mr. Carey, you may want to write that down. Quran says, أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Do the disbelievers not see that the earth and sky was once one and we opened it? And we made everything living out of water. That's a biological fact today, which is a recent discovery, that all life originates as a precursor is water. That you see even those space probes that are going into Mars are probing for the existence of water. Who could say that 1,400 years ago? That's the evidence. First of all, there's a presupposition here that mankind has been created only for this world, and our existence is only for this world. That doesn't make sense.
Well, you also have the opposite presupposition. I don't see how either one is more merited than the other.
From the Islamic perspective, is humans were created not for this world, but for the next world. This is what my presentation was for. When a child dies in this world, even if it's killed or if it dies a natural death, don't worry. It's accounted for in the future, in the hereafter, and it's going to be rewarded. If a man commits a crime on another person, that person who received the crime will be rewarded. There's a beautiful system of accountability.
Can you point to anyone in heaven or hell? Can you point to everyone? Can you point to someone in heaven or hell for some deeds to show that certain people go to heaven and which people go to heaven?
Mr. Carrier, do you put money in your bank?
Yes.
Why? You haven't seen tomorrow. Why do you do it?
What does that have to do with Do I have time?
Please.
There's still 15 seconds if you want to.
Okay. Just to answer this, the fact that the multi-universe, single universe, what's the difference? If it is multi, no problem. If there are infinite universes, no problem. If there's one universe, no problem. Where did this come from? You're not answering the question. You're playing semantics here by saying, well, black hole goes this way and it goes that way, and we have got laws here. Doesn't matter. The point is you're not answering the basic question, where did this come from? You're speaking about a process, not the cause of the process. And you are avoiding this cause of the process. The same thing when you say, God has to have a mind. I told you he's absolute. He's not bound in the time frame of reference of time, matter, and space. You insist, no, I got to bring him down. So you do agree then that since science is in constant flux, it is not stable. It is in constant change. That means all your postulations today could all be totally wrong. And if that is the case, how do you propose the idea of you being so firm with the notion that God doesn't exist?
Well, first, obviously, we're accountable to society, but you're asking about situations where society cannot mete out accountability. In that situation, as I said in my rebuttal, when people perform evil, when they act without love in their hearts, they basically develop a personal hell for themselves. Their lives become miserable. They're not happy. Whereas people who live by love, who have love in their hearts, are happy. They develop a life of happiness, and they're at peace. And this is the difference between whether you do good or bad, and this is the accountability. It depends on whether you create a personal hell for yourself on this earth or a personal heaven for yourself on this earth. And that is the difference.
In your writings, you've written that I am a happy person in this world. I love people, but then when I die, I go to nothing. And nothing means I don't even have my fears to worry about because I have no fear. So would it not therefore mean that for a person who goes into a hospital and sees a bunch of children who are suffering, to put bullets into their heads and say, you know what, why are they suffering? Let's take them to nothing. And let them not have any pain, because you know what? They came from nothing, let's take them back to nothing. Yet you find the atheist goes to the hospital and has himself fixed when he's ill. So what happiness are we talking about? If you're coming as a free thinker and saying, let's have freedom of individuality, and a group of individuals want to worship, you may not agree in their existence, but they do. Why does it bother you? I don't understand this free-thinking mentality when you have to go around and stop people from worshiping what they believe in. This notion isn't there. There's a problem there. We have not come to stop you from believing in the non-existence of God. Look, we're having this debate. We respect you. We're honored with your presence. It's not a personal attack, but I think your rebuttal should have been more substantive rather than just looking at us and saying, that's a Christian, that's a Muslim, they're fighting it out, you know, they're all wrong, and therefore we're good. No, I don't think that's proper ethics.
I'm just sitting there.
There's not even any evidence for one other universe, much less a multiverse. And
well, there is some evidence. I presented it in my opening.
That's not
evidence.
evidence.
We can't actually see it, but there's evidence in the nature of this universe that suggests at least Mohn's theory is correct.
You can't see it. If you can't see it, how's it evidence?
But we can see it.
Apparently, you were not listening to my presentation then, because the evidence is yourself and myself. The fact that I exist, the ontological argument, as Mr. Carrier says, evidential presuppositionalism, you know, all these nice, very fancy words. I exist. Where did I come from? I'm going out to the universe to look for something? Hey, look at the mirror. That's all you need to do. So for someone to say that I don't have enough evidence, where did I come from? Where did this order come from? Where does the universe? From nothing comes nothing. We know that. So would you go into a laboratory and do an experiment with nothing and bounce nothing with nothing and therefore have something?
Yes.
You say the laws of accidents. Can accidents happen when there's nothing there? What science is this? You know, imagine me going to do my PhD and I present an entire thesis. I said I took a little of nothing and then I mixed it with a lot of nothing. And guess what? I got this spectacular universe.
If nothing can come into existence without a creator, then where did God come from? 2 minutes.
Good point. If nothing can come into existence without something, that's good. That's a good question to ask. This is the whole notion of the whole reality of the absolute creator, meaning he is not bound in time, matter, nor space. He is the creator. He is the immovable mover. You cannot apply relative physics to the absolute. God is not bound in time, matter, nor space. So to ask where is he, people came and asked our messenger, where is God? He says, no, when was God born? He says, tell me when he wasn't there so I can tell you when he was born. Prove to me that he didn't exist. For someone to reject the existence of God, and I show this to you, you cannot have an infinitude of causes and effects. There has to be an immovable mover. This is a scientific, logical, rational position, which you need to come and falsify, my opponents. You have not falsified. Falsify my existence. Falsify your existence. Then maybe you'll be able to talk about the non-existence of God. But you know what? You wouldn't be able to because you wouldn't be there. The fact that I exist on Earth and not on a different planet is not my choice. So there are parameters by my own existence which are not within my free will. But my free will to choose right from wrong is certainly a free will. God's knowledge of the absolute, God's knowledge of this time that we understand it, he's not bound in time. He does not have past, present, and future. His knowledge is. You and I are undergoing this problem of time. So his knowledge is. Who would worship a God who doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow? Number one problem. The fact that I've been given free will, it's the wisdom of God to allow me to choose my own destiny, and therefore when I make a good choice, it elevates me as an individual. And when I'm the recipient of that reward, it is because he has allowed me to elevate my own self. This is a great, great, reality that we exist under. And to say that God has predetermined me would be like a playwright who's written a play and you and I are simply the actors. That is absolutely furthest away from the truth. There is no predeterminism at all in the religion of Islam. Not at all. As a matter of fact, if you see the atheistic position that God is so evil and therefore he should not exist, I ask you, since you want to throw all the evil to God, why don't you take all the good and give it to him too?
Again, there is no God, no element of a God has ever been observed in the real world. Okay, that's my premise. Therefore, there can be no God in the conclusions, despite any amount of clever reasoning and deductive logic that you might wish to put forth. If there's no God in the observations or the premises, there can be no God in the conclusions. Full stop. Therefore, your argument falls right down.
Hey, your logic, let me see how your logic can be applied to reality. There's no observation of my great-great-great-great-grandmother, therefore my great-great-great-grandmother never existed.
Would you like me to answer that, or would you like to answer it yourself?
Well, you can do that.
I shall. There are many observations of your great-great-great-great-grandfather, and many of them survive through the historical record.
Where?
That is real evidence.
Where? I don't have his grave or his DNA or photos.
There are many documents. There are documents going back to 2000. Excuse me, Hamza. I thought we were asked to be courteous to each other, which would include allowing me to answer questions without you interrupting.
It's easy for you because it's not true what you're saying. I have. Okay, take my 10th great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, grandmother. I have no DNA, no historical records. Is this because I'm here? I make the rational inference. You are denying.
Let's go to another example. Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
There are many physical traces of Julius Caesar. There are paintings and there are drawings and there are busts and there are recorded speeches. So there's lots of evidence that he existed.
Caesar is not my grandfather. It's like the fallacy of the undistributed middle. You're making a fallacy here. The point is, your logic can't apply to reality. You deny your own very existence. Do you see my point? So
But there is evidence that he existed.
what is it?
You.
That's exactly the point. It's indirect observation.
وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ قالوا أنؤمن كما آمن السفهاء ألا إنهم هم السفهاء ولكن لا يعلمون